Hello everybody, welcome to TraderMerlin Show, your Monday edition. Great weekend out there. I hope you had some fun like I did. Hopefully you enjoyed the nice market rally today, as market says. Market up! Yes, a nice up day as well. It's been like the fourth day in a row we've had green candles for most of the major market indexes. So let me reset this damn camera. Quit looking all pixelated in the background. I don't know why I look like there's a snowstorm behind me, but apparently it looks like there's a snowstorm. We'll just leave it at that. Good afternoon, Les and Cookie Cutter. Oh, I haven't seen you out there. Good to see you, Cookie Cutter. And you might be new to the program. Good to see you. Did you move to New York City? Is that what's going on now? We got Alex and the old Houston Astros. All right. Mimi, Ken, Tom, Thomasina, as well as Siraj. You got Skilled Stocksman. John, Rob said you're asking about that Bitcoin ETF. Did it go live today? Nope. It's going to be tomorrow, but apparently it's met all the hurdles. It looks like a total green light, and that will be kind of the topic for today. So I'll bring up this little graphic I made for today's show called The Dawn of the Bitcoin ETF. Now, it may seem a little bit more dramatic than it really is. Tomorrow's launching of this Bitcoin ETF, which is the ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF. While it sounds really exciting and everything, it's just not that exciting. Honestly, it's all it is a futures product. However, it does usher in the possibility of more Bitcoin ETFs. So let's talk about it at a high level, why it's important. And yes, Margaret, it's cold in my house today. Believe it or not, Southern California, it's like 70 degrees in my house, so I'm freezing. So I have a flannel on today. Just trying to make you on the East Coast feel a little bit better about your cold temperatures. So yes, I am definitely wearing a flannel today. So the news. The SEC didn't actually come after him and shut him down. There was a lot of thought over the weekend that maybe the SEC would say, no, we're not going to allow you to have this Bitcoin ETF. Mind you, ProShares is one of the biggest, most reputable ETF companies out there, so I'm sure that had a little bit of sway. But again, what they launched was simply a Bitcoin futures product. So all this does, in my opinion, is it allows those who don't have a futures account to now buy Bitcoin in, I'll say, a more efficient manner, because right now there are a couple different ways. There's Gbtc and a few others that are kind of proxies for Bitcoin, but it's not really Bitcoin. This ETF, which is going to have this ticker symbol BITO starting tomorrow, it is just a CME-based futures product wrapped in an ETF wrapper, and so to me it's not that big of a deal, but it's nice to see the SEC backing down a little bit and all of a sudden allowing them to list these and trade these on the exchanges. Now, my guess is probably the next couple days you're going to have a second one out there called the Valkyrie Bitcoin ETF, pretty much the same thing, and you'll have probably 4 or 5 more in the next month or so that are all trying to do the same thing. So when you boil it down, you have to ask yourself, well, what's the big deal? Why would I want to go with the ProShares versus the Valkyrie versus the Global X versus the Wisdom Tree, right? All these different fund families trying to come out with a Bitcoin ETF. Most likely will be how that portfolio is constructed of futures products. There is sometimes an issue with futures-based products. There's like the way the contracts roll over, they're always going to be going forward. And while it might not actually track the price of Bitcoin that closely, it should, right? Because it's a futures product. But remember, it's not spot, it's futures. And the expectations are that down the road, prices are going to move up or down. Obviously, my opinion is it's going to be moving to the upside. But if you look at if this Bitcoin ETF is going to be buying a lot of forward futures, meaning buying the where we are now, we're in October, so they're probably buying the December contracts right now. But what if they start buying the March contracts and they go out to the June or July contracts? If they're buying further out, there's a little bit more margin of error, and those prices aren't the current spot price. So right now you look at Bitcoin currently trading at 61,475. I haven't looked at the longer term futures product, but if you go to try to buy, let's say, the March contract, my guess is it's not 61,475 right now. It's going to be maybe 63, 64, 65,000, because the expectation is in the future they'll go up. Therefore, for those of you who are thinking it's going to track step for step what Bitcoin is doing, not true. It depends on how heavily loaded they are in those front month contracts and future contracts going forward. So not super excited. I think it's a great statement for the industry. I feel it It's good for everybody involved simply because it now shows the SEC is comfortable and the regulators are comfortable with a Bitcoin ETF, which is great. Eventually, though, we should have a spot one. Now, if we look out here, I'll just show you some of the things that happen out there today in the crypto space, and we'll go to the major market indexes. You know, a lot of people thinking this might be an example of buy the rumor, sell the news. And if you look at the price of Bitcoin, we've gone from roughly 41,000 up to about 63,000 in just a couple of weeks. Pretty nice move by anybody's definition. I'll go from the bottom down here to the peak we had just 2 days ago, and you're looking at a run of 56% in 12 days. Awesome. I'm sure those of us who are currently holding Bitcoin love those types of move. I kind of would be ready for a little bit of a pullback. If you notice where Bitcoin ran into, you see this pocket of supply that's off to the left-hand side of your chart there. I'll put a little yellow box around it just for some fun. Would not surprise me to see a little bit of a pullback here in the price of Bitcoin as we came right into this area of supply overhead. So buy the rumor, sell the news kind of feels like what it is to me. My assumption would be over the next couple of days, we'll probably see a little bit of downside movement. We're already seeing that in quite a bit of the crypto space. But you know, all in all, I think long-term will be okay. Now, let's go a little bit deeper into this. So obviously, we have that Bitcoin ProShares ETF, which is exciting. And, you know, there were messages over the weekend asking me, you know, what are some of the other ways that you can get into the crypto space? Well, I personally don't think there's any substitute for actual physically buying cryptocurrency, right? Going to an exchange, buying that, maybe putting on cold storage or keeping it on an exchange where you're actually generating some yield. The second step would probably go to the futures markets, right? And then if you're a retail person who doesn't have access to a futures account, then you take a step back and I think you go into this new Bitcoin ETF. The challenge you're going to have is the fees associated with it. So when you buy that Bitcoin ETF, that ProShares one that's coming out tomorrow, it has a 0.91% annual fee, which means, let's just round it up, you're going to be paying about 1% per year. Now, I don't think that 1% seems like a lot, but you know, if you look at Coinbase Pro, I can buy right now for 0.5%. And while that, again, may not seem like much, if I'm buying $100,000 worth of Bitcoin and I have to pay 1%, well, you guys see that that's quite a bit. That's a grand. If I'm buying $100,000 worth of Bitcoin and I can pay 0.5%, I'm paying $500. That transaction right there saves me $500, and I can find it cheaper than 0.5% depending on the exchange or the volume that I do. If you go to Coinbase and buy your Bitcoin, you'll probably be paying, I would say, closer to 4%. So on $100,000, that's a $4,000 transaction. So, you know, these things are obviously important to me. I think as we see more competition jump into this Bitcoin ETF space, then that's big. Because right now you have the ProShares one is saying 0.91%. I haven't seen the prospectus for Valkyrie, which is going to be probably the next one that comes out. Then you have Global X, you've got Krypton, you have quite a few other ones out there that are trying to vie for that position of being, you know, first to market. Obviously, ProShares won that, but you know, when you have 4 products lined up and they all have the same thing, they're just containing Bitcoin futures. To me, it's all about price, right? So I'm just going to go to price and maybe volume. If something's not liquid, there could be a problem there, but I would be looking for the cheapest one, and hopefully that will drop fees down. So that's the exciting part there. Again, fees are obviously a big deal. To those that are asking other ways we can play this with ETFs. Right now in the US, there's not a physically backed Bitcoin ETF, right? There's just not. There is Gbtc, which is a trust, which again has I think it's a 30-day redemption period and it's a closed-end fund. Don't bother with it. Wait for a physical backed Bitcoin ETF to come out. Now, to the question that was mentioned from somebody, or comment was mentioned just a second ago, where was it? Boy, you guys are typing fast. It just flew by me. Where was that one? Someone asked about the Grayscale one. Gbtc, exactly. Gbtc is not Bitcoin, but has been quite profitable, selling off some now for the ETF comeback. And that's the thing. Gbtc right now, they're jumping on the heels of ProShares. So what Gbtc, which is Grayscale Trust, and they have a whole bunch of them, guys. You can go out and see all sorts of different Grayscale products. So here's Gbtc. Right, this is the Grayscale Bitcoin, which right now is trading at a pretty substantial discount to Bitcoin, right? This is 1/1000th of a Bitcoin, so in theory it should be trading at $61. It's literally a $16 discount to Bitcoin because it is broken, in my opinion. Don't mess with it. So you have Gbtc would be one way, but they also have, you know, GETH, so you have Ethereum. Oops, nope. Oh, God, I always forget that damn Ethereum one. Every time I try to show you guys that one, I mess up on it. Gbtc, we'll go back to Bitcoin. But they have Chainlink, they have Litecoin, they have Decentraland, they have Stellar Lumens, they have Zcash, they have Bitcoin. They have a whole bunch of these trusts set up for Grayscale. Now, what Grayscale is doing is basically saying, hey, look, we've already, the Grayscale Trust actually owns physical Bitcoin, right? They own physical Bitcoin, but it's done through a trust, which has really weird mechanisms behind the scenes. They jumped on it with another petition to the SEC to hopefully get Grayscale to be approved for the first physical-backed cryptocurrency. And when that happens, guys, that to me is the real exciting part. Because when we get to physical-backed cryptocurrencies and people start to buy the Bitcoin ETF and more people buy it, what do they have to do? They have to go out and buy more Bitcoin. So to me, this just adds more fuel to the argument that I'm making that we'll see substantially higher prices of Bitcoin going forward. So I think that's great. Let's see, what else do I have here? Isn't Grayscale filing? There it goes, Alan. Yes, they are filing for their conversion as well. Who knows how it turns out. I hope it pans out, because the sooner that happens, I think it is better is for the system. Rob, with this being futures which expire, do they simply roll over to the next contract? No, they'll be cash settled. So the futures contracts will be cash settled. None of the Bitcoin ones are going to be physical delivery, so it'll be cash settled. 1% seems quite small in a world that defaults to 22% tip for every simple swipe of a device. Yeah, Tom, you're right. 1% does seem small, but I think we have to take a step back and just look at it. Why is my camera so screwed up? All the tips you guys have been giving me, I think I should buy a new camera. I don't know why it's messed up. If you take a step back and look big picture, yeah, nowadays if you don't tip 20%, you're almost like frowned upon by the industry. It's like, oh, you didn't tip 22%? It's like, come on. But for me, it's about saving money. And if it's a 0.5% savings, I know it sounds pathetic, but I'm going to do it. I am always out there looking for whatever the best possible deal is on an item or service. And to me, I think we should be doing that as well with crypto and trying to find A, the best deal, and B, what gives us the best flexibility as far as a product goes. There, I think I just fixed my camera. I do IT as well. There it is. Thanks, Tom. I knew you knew it. ETHE is the one for ETHE. I always think that it's, no. This is the coin shares. This isn't the Grayscale one. But either way, there are different ones. You look fine. Thanks, Cookie Cutter. Well, I was pixelated, but sometimes when I turn my computer off and I was letting my camera sleep this weekend, just restarted and did look good. So, I guess the bottom line here, which is the dawn of the Bitcoin ETF, is the gate has been opened. And this is great because it means that they're off to the races and we'll start to see massive competition out there. As you guys know, there's over 12,000 different cryptocurrency projects. Most of them are trash. Most of them are absolute scams. But there will be a lot more activity in this space. And one thing I'm really excited about is, and I hope it comes from Grayscale, because Grayscale actually has this product already, which is an ETF that physically holds a basket of cryptocurrencies, which I think is pretty exciting. So let me show you some of the other ones, since there are questions about Bitcoin ETFs and what you could do to buy into this space. One that's interesting is BitW. So BitW it's basically, they don't hold anything. It just tracks an index fund. And it's the 10 largest by market cap. So it's going to have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. Maybe Litecoin's not even top 10 anymore. I could probably pull up the Bitwise index, but I'll just go through CoinMarketCap to give you an idea of who is going to be in that. So here's your top 10. You're going to have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance, Cardano, probably not Tether because that's a stable coin. You'll have Ripple, Solana, Polkadot, and oh god, Dogecoin still in the top 10. Unbelievable. Thank you, Elon Musk, for putting that one in the top 10, I guess. But that will be pretty much your top 10 in BitW. Now, BitW, of course, as everything else, does have fees associated with it. You're going to have to pay, I don't know exactly off the top of my head what that fee is, but I think it's probably a 1.5% fee. And all they're doing is tracking an index. But it's exposure for some of you who want it. I already mentioned Gbtc. And then pretty much everything else, guys, is just simply a different representation. So a different representation of different companies within the crypto space, not necessarily cryptocurrency. So if that's something that interests you, some of the main players there are BLOK, right, which is really just been kind of transitioning sideways. This is the Amplify Transformational Data Sharing, and basically they are all in blockchain type of companies. Same with BLCN, I believe. Yep, this is the NASDAQ Next Gen Economy. You know, if you look at the crypto space, you think this is really doing well? Not really. You know, this doesn't look like it's doing that great, but again, it's not cryptocurrency. It's companies who are in the crypto space or blockchain space. Ledger is one more, and then I have one other that I want to show you that I think is kind of interesting. Here's Ledger, which is another just technology company or fund that's buying into technology companies. Hey, Chris, good to see you. So the last one here I think is interesting. It's BitQ. So what BitQ does is they look for companies that have, they're generating 75% of their revenues from the crypto industry. So this is going to be companies like Hut8, right, Blockchain, Marathon, you know, these that are generating their business revenue from the cryptocurrency marketplace. So I think that's an interesting one. Again, it's relatively lower volume. I'll add volume on the bottom here, but it's relatively low volume. You have like 50,000 shares traded a day, so not that exciting. You know, you don't like what does Alan say? That's why I like Chipotle. So let me see. Well, what did Margaret say? Will there be something like Contango or whatever you call it with the new Bitcoin because ETF traders will buy it up? This new ETF, yes, I believe so. I believe it'll be very similar to that, which is why I'm not so excited about a Bitcoin futures ETF, or sorry, Bitcoin futures contract period. I thought it was nice because it allowed people to finally short Bitcoin, which, hey, I think there's times to short Bitcoin, although personally I wouldn't be messing with it just because I wouldn't short Bitcoin. It goes against what I believe in. So what else? But yes, Margaret, I do believe the same principles of contango, degradation, those types of things will happen with Bitcoin as well. Catherine says coin has been rallying. Yeah, you know why? Really, it's one basic thing, one main reason, and it's 3 simple letters. And you guys know that I think it's an absolute joke. NFTs. Now, you know, I've mentioned this before, but I think NFTs can be great. I just think paying $20 million for a piece of digital artwork that some guy made in 30 seconds on a computer by hitting generate a picture is just idiocracy. It's just stupid. But Coinbase on the news that they were now going to open up an NFT portal or NFT site, just vaulting. You know, we were down around 250. Right now you're at 293. So a huge jump in just a few days for Coinbase. Again, a lot of this is because they already have over 1 million people wanting to jump on this, you know, pre-signing up for this NFT portal. And what this does is this could now take away the business from like OpenSea or some of these other NFT portals and put them on a publicly traded company, which adds a little more credibility to those platforms. Now, it doesn't mean that OpenSea is dead, but how are you going to make money off of OpenSea? You're not, because OpenSea is their own business. It's private. It's not anything you can do about it. But at Coinbase now, that revenue generation will come into the Coinbase equity, which you guys know the ticker symbol COIN, and that's why you're seeing it pop up today. So pretty cool. Alan, you're great. Logan Paul is the greatest artist of our generation. How dare you, Merlin? Oh my God. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I'm sure some of you guys know how this works, but there's a program that you can buy this program, and basically you create a frame. So I could just have it I could call it the Merlin NFT. And I'll just sit there like this. And basically I'll take one with no shirt on, right? So and that's my base. So I could just sit there like this. Take a picture of me with no shirt on and I have a base. And then I have an artist come in and give me different hats that just go on. It's a layer. And one layer is just a hat or hairstyles. One layer is just glasses, right? And one layer is facial hair. One layer is clothing. So I have like shirts or jackets or, you know, whatever. And that's it. Or earrings, right? So I've got like 5 layers. And each layer will have maybe 100 different items. So just picture 100 different types of goggles, no goggles, maybe ski goggles, maybe star sunglasses like Bootsy Collins used to wear. Who knows? You just have all of that stuff layered, and they hit a button. And they say, how many do you want to produce? 10,000? And it basically just instantly creates 10,000 different combinations from those different layers of hat, glasses, earrings, facial hair, or facial expression too. I can go. And it will just randomly generate those. That's what all of these stupid NFTs are being generated from. It's not original, intelligent, thought-out artwork that somebody took talent to create. It's somebody hit a button on a computer that said, just compile all this crap and we'll just sell them for... I'm just bitter that I didn't get in on it. That's basically it. So that's why Coinbase is taking off. Now, for those of you who are artists, we've got Anthony D is in here. Is he here today? Normally Anthony's here with us. He's a musician and he's always out on social media putting out great music and trying to get his name out there. And again, this is where NFTs are great for people like Anthony to track their music, to track their royalties and have it all automated as opposed to people stealing music. That to me is great. I love that aspect of NFTs. Or something like sports cards. So I used to collect sports cards, baseball cards in particular, and knowing that I have this original copy and that's authentic, that's fine to me. But some stupid ape that has no social value or whatever, I don't know. Some of you might argue that baseball cards are stupid as well. I get it. But you're starting to see NFTs potentially for tracking clothing. So, for example, you buy some Gucci clothes. Well, do I have the original pair? Is this a knockoff? Well, now we might be able to track that with an NFT and things like that. Even though it's a physical garment, it could have a tracking device, etc. But so it does open the doors to me. NFTs have a huge amount of potential down the road for music and art. But the craze that's going on right now is just absolutely insane. Hey, I was just talking about you, Tony. Talking about how musicians like yourself are out there, grinding, trying to make a name for yourself. You play some great music, by the way. If you haven't followed him on Twitter, do so. He's always posting some great songs, and it's my type of music as well. But again, artists, I think that this is probably one of the saving graces for artists will be NFTs, because now if they do it right, they don't need to go through recording companies. They can literally do it on their own and be able to keep all those profits, and where the record industry used to take all that away from you. So, yep, Adam, you're right. Some will fail, some will make it. Some of those NFTs will make it, but right now it's just a frenzy to just crank out as much volume, and people are gobbling them up. So kind of interesting to me. Some people. I'm not setting up an OnlyFans page. I'm not selling NFTs. I do not. I will actually think about creating the Merlin coin just for fun, but that now, because the cost of Ethereum's transactions are so high, it's expensive to create your own token right now, so I will probably hold off on that one. All right, let's see. Isn't NFT kind of like smart contracts? That's pretty much all it is. That's pretty much all it is. It is a smart contract, but it's a smart contract of one, right? So it's basically a little piece of code that says what the item is, and all the history about it, who made it, where it was manufactured, the original price. So it will show every transaction as well. So if I had a piece, an NFT artwork, so I don't know, I don't have any artwork here nearby to show you guys, but let's say I had some and I decided to sell it to anybody, not only can you see what I paid for it originally, but you can see the unalterable paper trail of every step along the way, and the original creator of this. So let's say I drew a picture. You guys remember Brandon Wendell was on the program last week, and he created a nice artwork, right? He had that nice bull and bear piece that he's selling. If he digitized that and sold it as an NFT, he actually maintains the rights to it. So when you buy an NFT from somebody, depending how it's structured, but the original artist keeps the copyright. You just own the card or the picture. You can't really take it and utilize it where you want, but you just own the picture. You don't have the rights to use it for commercial purposes unless it's written in the smart contract. Also, if Brandon created that, he can say that every time that picture is sold, every time it changes hands, 1% of the sale process goes back to him. And he can set whatever that percentage is. Let's say he wants to do a 10% fee, right? So if I took my Brandon Wendell picture and I sold it here to Adam, let's say Adam pays 1 Ethereum. Okay, Adam pays 1 Ethereum. 10% of that goes straight back to an address that's set up in the NFT contract to Brandon. And then he would just be, oh, I got royalties again. So from Brandon's perspective, he's like, keep selling that picture, right? I sold it once and made the money I wanted, but keep selling it to everybody else, because every time you do, I make money off it. So I think that's kind of a cool feature and imagine, Tony here, who's an artist again, if he did that and he wrote an original song and he sold the NFT to somebody, you wouldn't be able to play that one per se, but you could sell it anytime that's sold and transferred to somebody else. They would pay a fee, all through digital cryptocurrencies or some digital asset, and a piece of that would go back to him every single time that song was sold, or potentially even played, depending on what the structure of that smart contract is. So it's really cool. It's a little bit, I think, ahead of its time. I think people just got a little too hyped with it. It's not quite the tulip bubble. I think that those buying these stupid degenerate apes and crypto punks, I think that's idiocracy in my opinion. But down the road, once we find real viable purposes for non-fungible tokens and how they can apply to digital rights of digital assets, I think that they're huge. I'm learning more and more about them, but they're a little bit a little bit abstract in my opinion. They're kind of hard to figure out the way they're constructed, but it's fun. What else do I have? NFTs seem like a scam from the beginning. Make a Picasso in 10 minutes. But it's not only that, it's making 10,000 Picassos, right? I think I told you when I showed you guys the Solana apes, right? I think I showed you guys the Solana apes. If I did show them to you, just tell me and I won't show you this real quick, but it's just like, it's ridiculous when you think of how much money they made. And if you look at these pictures, I don't know why it's taking so long to load up, but when you do, let me see, where's my Solana apes? Oh, they've sold out. Oh, here's the Degenerate Ape Academy, right? So you notice, remember what I was telling you about? It's just layers. So look, it's the same picture of the ape. He's got two facial expressions. One, he's pursed his lips and drinking. One, he's frowning. One, he's eating something. And so there's the hats. So it's a hat layer, and then the glasses layer. And all of these were created in 1 second, guys. They literally hit a button, and all these just get cranked out over and over again. And just in case you're wondering, this one up here is trading for 100,000, right? That's what they want to sell it for, 100,000 Solana, which is trading at $160. So you're talking $16 million for this picture that some kid created in his mom's garage in a period of 1 second. Amazing to me. I saw a pretty great one released, though, through NYSE that was for a charity that first... Oh, that's cool. I like that. You know, if you're buying a piece of history, something that's really significant, I think that is interesting. And again, people would look at my baseball card collection and say that was stupid. Well, I would agree. It is somewhat stupid, although I'm still holding on to my Pete Rose rookie cards, all that stuff. True, Big Eb. There's always a sucker. Always a sucker. And I'm too careful to a fault. Like, I may actually, never buy an NFT because I just don't see the logic in it. For me, I have to really quickly see that I can buy something, if that's the case, buy something and know it's going to go up in value. Like, buying myself a 1955 Porsche 550 Spider, right? My dream car. I had one, got rid of it. A replica, of course, because the new one or the used ones are like, if you can find one, multi-millions. But that would only go up in value. If you look at something like these Degenerate Apes, how's that going to maintain its value? And to me, it's if there's a greater fool theory, right? Why is a Porsche 550 Spider so sought after? Because James Dean died in that car. And it's one of those just icons. You see it on the street, heads turn. You're like, wow, that's a cool car, right? Anybody here knows the 550 Spider? You know what I'm talking about. But if I see a picture of a Degenerate Ape, I'm like, whatever, okay, great. I got an ape sucking on a hot dog. 116 million? I'm pretty sure that's that. All right, sorry, I'm just going down the rabbit hole today. What else do we see out there? So Margaret was talking about how some of these markets were looking really good. Look at the NASDAQ. Glad I got out of my shorts. Goodness gracious, it's kept on going. Of course, today it's right up into an area of supply, which, oh boy, we'll have to wait and see what tomorrow holds. I do have my sights potentially for some short trades tomorrow on the NQ, just because you're up in that overhead supply after a very, very strong 4-day run. I'll go from the lows here. In 4 trading sessions, you're 5% gain. I mean, that's a pretty big run for the NASDAQ with all the uncertainty that's going on right now. So that's what I'm watching for tomorrow is potential short there. That was by far your biggest gainer. Everything else was down. S&P was slightly up, although it's right at supply as well. You can see this Russell 2000. God, it's just, I'm kind of shocked, honestly. I mean, I've been trading for 20 plus years, and I look at this chart and I'm like, how does an index just go sideways for so long? There's got to be good stuff in that index. Well, I guess it's balanced out by a lot of bad stuff, too, because it's just really done nothing. I mean, I'm waiting to the point, when we get to, let's put a vertical line on this one, when we get to, right here, when we get to February 2nd of next year, the Russell will have gone completely sideways for a year. No change, nothing. So that's your Russell. The Dow as well was down just slightly, but it's almost at that supply zone, although that supply zone is not as good as it is on the NASDAQ or the S&P, right? It's really more of you have like 10 candles in this base right here. It's not that big of a fan of it, although it's teetering on all-time highs. You had gold today. I did get exercise on my call options. You guys know I was in a bunch of SLV, and I'll just bring up the chart. So I sold SLV covered calls. I had 2,600 shares of silver, sold some covered calls at 21.50, and you notice it executed on Friday at 21.56 or 57, and then today it's back down below 21.50. So happy about that. Generated more premium. It was a very nice little, a simple play, if you will, at least from my perspective, a simple play. I thought that was a good trade. I actually did better on the fact that I sold the covered calls than if I would have held it. So that's always a great thing. All right, so back to gold. You know, I look at the silver picture. I am probably going to sell some call. I wanted to wait a little bit, but I may sell some puts again on silver. I do think it's going lower, but I'm okay with that. You notice it feels like there's a pretty identifiable pattern here. Notice it has a sharp drop and then kind of bases or rallies a little bit. Sharp drop, bases and rallies. Sharp drop, bases. Now I'm thinking there might be a sharp drop. So when the premium gets high enough for me to sell maybe the 20s, I'll look to sell the November 20 puts on that one. Just because I was okay to get out. I was fine with that one, Alan. Just simple. It's an account where I really am doing much less monitoring. It's really a once a month kind of account in the 1% account, and I did a show on that one a while back talking about the 1% account and what the goals are. Actually, the SLV trade really helped boost those rates of return because my average price on SLV, remember I was selling puts at 21, sold puts at 21, was executed, so I collected my premium, but with the premium I sold, my average price was like $20.70, I think. So I collected 30 cents for the premium, and then sold the calls. I collected like 40 cents of the premium. So my average price was $20.30, and sold out at 21.50. So a nice $1.20 on 2,600 shares definitely beats that 1% rate of return per month. So it was a simple, easy trade. I'm trying to keep as basic as possible without doing spreads, Alan. That's why. What does Tom say? Maybe the Russell represents reality better than other indexes. Economy going sideways is the best. So is the Russell. At best, so is the Russell. Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's a great theory, you know. But when you look at all the indexes, remember this is just small caps, right? So it's 2,000 small cap companies. And I think the cap, I got too many numbers in my head. I believe the cutoff for that was like what, 6 billion or something is what they consider small cap, something like that. You know, but you look at the NASDAQ. I mean, it's still just strong, just ripping. The S&P still looking great. You have the Dow still looking pretty good, more sideways. But the Russell, you know, they've always called it the canary in the coal mine as long as I've been in the market. So if that's a warning sign, and I tend to agree with you, I think that this is probably, you know, more of an indication of what the market should look like. Even though we are talking about all this infrastructure bill and money pouring in, I'm more of a believer that things are going sideways, if not slowly drifting down. Even though the statistical data is starting to look a little bit better, that's if you believe the data. Right, so I had two others here. There's the Bitcoin one, which we already talked about, the coming into supply, and then there's crude oil, which, hallelujah, had a down day. Could it be? It had a down day? Wow, and it's also a shooting star, by the way. So for anybody who is a fan of those types of patterns, what that means is if you are looking at crude oil, the CL futures here, it hit a low today of 81.21. So if we start to drift down below 81.21, that might be a shorting opportunity, although you're shorting something that's unbelievably aggressive right now, real strong, so I would be careful with that one, but I do like shooting star patterns. Let's see, what else did I have? We'll go to some listener questions. I want to tickers in reality not. Margaret, good thoughts. So which sectors lead in an economic downturn? Generally, when things start to slow down. And here's why I hate sector rotation. So we've done this special on sector rotation models many times in the past. And I have one really big fundamental problem with sector rotation. And that is, if the market goes into a prolonged recession or a nice downturn, or as Margaret says, an economic downturn, what do you think is going to happen? Well, it will probably take everything with it. Sector rotation implies that when the market starts to go into a specific phase, whether it's a bull market, bear market, irrelevant, when it goes through the phases, there's generally leaders in that, right? So when you go into a downturn, an economic downturn, as Margaret was asking about, utilities and consumer staples become very popular because you're not cutting back on your toothpaste and toilet paper. You're not cutting back on your electricity or water bill. So those things tend to do well, but they still go down. They just don't go down as much. So when you look at that sector rotation model, and you use the S&P 500 as kind of your benchmark, if you have a recession or a market economic decline and the S&P drops, let's say 10%, well, utilities might only drop 5%. Ooh, so it's doing so much better than the index, right? Does that make sense? You're still losing. An economic downturn is going to take everything down with it. So why would why try to buy something that's going to be the least loser, right? From my perspective, I would much rather be shorting that market when the signs were right. Start slow and maybe start to build a bigger position if we do, in fact, see an economic downturn going forward. So that's kind of how I perceive it. I don't look at any one specific sector. What I like to do is I'll go here to TradeStation still allows me to look at this, but I'll go to a daily here, and then I'll go back to the beginning of the year. And so I'll do it from 2 points, right? I like to start from the beginning of the year just to see where that rotation might be starting. And I'll do a price percentage chart. Again, you guys can do this with stockcharts.com has a performance chart where you can do this as well. There people are hoarding toilet paper in Connecticut again. Oh, my goodness. Just go to Costco, hoard it one time. You don't have to worry about it anymore. So when we look at this, this is where you kind of have to write down the numbers. But right now, XLE is just the absolute monster for the year. It's up 55%. Or sorry, 51%. You look at the S&P, which is down in here. Your S&P is up oops, sorry, that's industrials. Let me get that. I'm colorblind, so it makes it rather tough for me. This should be, no, it's not that one. Damn it, my eyes are bad. S&P should be right around 19%. I don't know why I thought it would be this guy right here, but apparently it's coming up as industrials. Well, I can't tell what color this is. That's going to make it challenging for me to figure out exactly which one. XLC, that's communications. I think it's right there. So 21%. There you go, 21%. So, if you look at 21% for the S&P, energy right now is just absolutely just dominating. You can see that right there. And then we look at the next one. So you got your energy is at 51%. You can click on this bad boy here, which is going to be your next biggest gainer, which is financials. Now, I don't have the sector rotation model, but those generally tend to do well in bull markets, right? Crazy, but tend to do well. So let's go. I'm just reading the numbers here to see how quickly things might be changing. You have 51 for energy, 35 for financials, and 21 for the S&P. So now let's go. Let's just say the past few months. I'm going to go from July on, just to see, from the second half of the year, how are we looking. And I do this just to see which one might be showing some weakness right now. Now it gets a little cluttered up here. Let me zoom out. Right now, energy is still up, but is it leading as much? No, it's no longer the lead dog, which means that energy is starting to slow down. So if I'm starting to look for potential short candidates, you have the Icarus here, which is the energy soaring to new highs, and all of a sudden it's still going up, but it's slowed down its ascent. You have here in our black one, which is financials. Remember, financials were number 2. Now they're number 1. S&P, I can't tell. I think this one's 3.8%. So things look like they're still real strong, although they're slowly starting to roll over, especially when we get down near the end here. So that's kind of what I'm doing, is I'm looking at just the market internals, really which sector or segment might be rolling over now, not necessarily looking at it with the thought of, oh, this is a sector rotation model, and when this one does well, then this one's the next one to do well. Personally, I feel like that's a broken model. It's a very vague, in general, everything acting perfect type of model. Yes, sector rotation works, but I don't put much stock in it. Yes, Catherine, in random news, VIH is becoming, it's not becoming, is become, right? It's done, it's official. So that dog, which really, I wish there was a class action lawsuit against these bad boys for switching. You go BKKT. So there's that. There's the new back. This was the VIH holdings that we had for a while, and I'm still holding it. I guess at this point, I'll probably just dump this thing if it drops below 7. I'm in at 15. I have 1,000 shares of it, so I've got a nice loser on this bad boy. All because I fell for what they were talking about. They were talking about being a custodial account for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for institutions and going for the high-end, big-time clients. And what do? They now offer you an app that allows you to buy Starbucks with crypto. Total bait and switch crap. But unfortunately, not much I can do about that. And they tanked down 6% today on their, call it the IPO, their official first day on the NYSE. But I'm keeping it. You know, when you have ICE and the New York Stock Exchange backing you, I don't think you're going to fail. They'll find some way to make that thing work. Let's see. What's the chart called, or how can I get that? NJ, are you trading with TradeStation? Or a different platform? TradeStation, it's just a price percentage chart. You can just add on layers. Right? But with the other one I was talking about, there's one called a perf chart. I know, Simon. Well, I probably helped sell it, so my bad. But if you look over here to stock charts, go stockcharts.com, there's one called a perf chart. And this one, I like showing this one because it's easier for everybody. Yeah, I know, Jerry. I feel bad because I was really feeling that was had a lot of potential. And lo and behold, it was just, I don't know, it was a scam. Feels like it was a scam. So here's where you would do it. You select perf charts on stock charts. Right at the top, there's a drop-down menu. You select perf chart, and now you can put in whatever you want. So if you were doing the comparison I was just looking at, you look like XLI for industrials. Here's XLE, XLF, XLK, XLU, XLV, SPY. All right, so there's just a few of them, and then it does basically the same analysis. What I actually like about this one, it's easier to use. So when you look down here at the bottom, you can just take this and see, over the past X amount of days, where the performance has come from. So it's pretty cool. I really like their tool, their functionality. Yep, much easier to use, Lisa. Yep. Yes, CG. I got to check that one out. They get a beer calendar. That's a big get. You have 30 beers in that thing. That's pretty nice. Okay, so NJ, if you're using TradeStation, I'll show you that one real quick. I know a lot of people are not using TradeStation, but let me go and just go back here. And you see right now it's got Fortune brands. If I wanted to, I could just right mouse click and you go insert symbol. So insert symbol. And let's say I want to do this one, Fortune brands with XLF, right? So you plot it. And notice now they're separate. So if I want to, I can just drag this up here and just say no axis. And now it looks like a big mess. There's like you couldn't tell what's what. So you have to right mouse click and say price change chart enable. And now it'll do it like that. Now you have both of them. You could create NFT with that picture. Oh, good. Oh, well. Genau. Ich möchte ein Bier bitte. Oh boy. Heute Abend ich möchte ein Bier bitte. There we go. Io voglio una birra adesso. So it depends on what language you want me to go into. All right, let me real quick. I had a couple questions I want to make sure I get to before I do economic calendar because time is flying and I have so much stuff to do. We don't need that one. All right, I'll look at this one for Lee because you send in all kinds of good questions. Lee says, can you look at Biogen on today's show? Is it a value play? I'm not particularly a value play kind of person, but, I don't look at the fundamentals. It's not really my thing. That's more of a Larry. He loves fundamentals. But let's just look at Biogen. It's BIIB, I believe. Yes. Interesting. BIIB. I want the NASDAQ one. So, you talk about it as a value play. I look at it as a boredom play. And first off, you guys know one of the rules in my trading plan, page 3, I've got a circle of Apple with a logo, a red X through it. I can't trade Apple, and I cannot trade biotech stocks. No pharmaceuticals. So Biogen is out for me, so I can't trade it, period. That said, I don't know what's so appealing about this price chart. I get that you look back here a week or two ago, and a month or so ago, and you say, oh, is it 470? Now it's at 269. It's got to be a deal. It's on sale. That does not mean that this is a good buy. It looks to me like it came right back down to where it started from, and that looks like it was just fairly flat for quite some time. I mean, let's go to a weekly here. Now you're back in the middle of consolidation. So you got a lucky break out of it. I don't know for what. I'm assuming because of COVID, etc. Now you're right back down. Arguably, you are in a demand zone, which that could be a nice buy point, but I personally wouldn't touch it. I don't know what's going on with Biogen. It's still trading at $270. That means it could go to where? 200, 110. It could just keep on dropping. Who knows? Obviously, Biogen is a massive biotechnology firm which has multi-products, so it's not like it's hanging on one. I just don't really like that chart. Doesn't look that good to me. Looks a little weak. All right. Let me see if I can go through any other listener questions for you. There was one. Let me see if I can get this one. I have something mapped out for tomorrow. Let me see. This is a question that came in from Lisa. And Lisa says, I find it helpful when you walk us through trade setups. Can you show us one on each show? No, I can't do that. That's like more XLT. Get in the classrooms, and that's what those guys are doing that stuff. So I'm not going to become an XLT for you guys. It's more of a higher level. But what I will say is there are things I'm looking for on a regular basis. I have scans, I have filters I look for, and it just means it's going to draw me to a potential trading opportunity, not that I have to take that trade. So one that stands out for me for tomorrow is DRI. For those of you who are into punk rock, Dirty Rotten Imbeciles. No, it's Darden Restaurants. And one of the main reasons is you look at this thing over the past few months, it's been on a gorgeous uptrend since those March lows, right? Slowed down a little bit back here in March, April, May of 2021, but we're now moving back up. It's stair-stepping higher. And today we formed a hammer pattern, which is one of my personal favorites. So I'm not saying I'm going to trade this one tomorrow, but if tomorrow morning we open up somewhere down below that line that I just drew, which is what, 149.06. If we open up somewhere down below that and then start to move back up above 149.06, I'll look at it as a potential long trade. And two things there, and two reasons why. Number one is you have a hammer formation, which I like. Simple, easy to find. They work sometimes, they fail sometimes, but just have your rules in place. It's coming into an area of demand, although I don't really like this area of demand. You see this big old sideways chop here that went sideways for 2 weeks or so. That's not anything really substantial. So I would love it if this came into a stronger area of demand. That said, it's just one of those ones I will be keeping an eye on for tomorrow, just through one of the scans and filters, Lisa. But this is something that you got to find your own routines and figure out what works for you. I just love patterns like this because it just draws my attention to them. And tomorrow, if this looks good on the open and I feel like I want to take it, I'll take that trade. And I could do something very simple. I could set alerts, right? So this is with TradingView. You can go in here and set an alert right there and say when it crosses above, what do we say, 149.06? So let me just click these buttons real quick to get to 149.06. All right, alert me. And then it's like, well, how do you want to alert you? You can have it message you or webmail you, show pop-ups, notify on an app. So if you have the TradingView app, it'll pop up there. Pretty cool. But that's another way you could be doing this to help yourself just kind of not be glued to the screen all the time, which is something we should all try to achieve, is get away from your screens. They will suck you in. Oh, yeah, right. Jerry, I'm waiting for the movie because, honestly, the more I read and learn about Nikola Tesla, it's like one of the most brilliant minds to ever grace the face of the earth. I mean, it seems like everybody stole his ideas. Not that Elon Musk stole his idea, but I believe Benjamin Franklin stole some of Nikola Tesla's ideas, and just some of the things he had drawn up years ago are actually becoming products like electric motors and things. So, yeah, brilliant. I really hope they do a fitting movie to pay homage to Nikola Tesla. Just one of the more brilliant minds ever. All right, let me go through here and say what's happening for mañana. So here's your economic calendar for tomorrow. We do have quite a bit. I'm concerned might not be the right word, but I'm really watching these building permits and housing starts. I just look at how much housing has gone up month over month over month, over year, and it's like, whoa. I believe the last Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index numbers came out at a gain of 20% year over year. Like, what? 20% on a house year over year? That's not normal, right? It's just well above average, and it just keeps on going. So at some point, that's going to start to slow down, and we'll probably see that start with things like housing starts, maybe building permits start to take a little bit of a dip. And there's some more housing numbers coming out this week. There's actually quite a bit of housing data this week. So that's probably the most important stuff for me this week, or for tomorrow. You do see there are some Fed members speaking, but not that critical. You got Waller, Bostic, Bowman, and Daly all speaking at different events, giving their thoughts on different economic conditions, which you could create some waves, but it's really all about Mr. Powell. If you're trading the British pound, and for those who have been trading the British pound recently, you've seen a nice little curl back up over the past, let's just say 2 weeks. You have consumer price index data, you have PPI numbers, RPI. I call it the Magnum PI day because you got CPI, PPI, and RPI awesome data coming out tomorrow if you trade the pound. And here's the chart, just so you can see. British pound has definitely been looking stronger, although it's coming right up to some areas of supply, and it's been on a downtrend since early May. So just keep that in the back of your head. I saw a great TV movie series of Tesla V that broke the event, and the bloke that invented light bulb. Yep. Yeah, let me know, Rob. I love that stuff. I'm fascinated by what Tesla did, and it just seems like we all know the name Tesla and we just think it's a car. It's like, no, it was so much more than that. But all right, what else do I got? Last minute ones. If more people were like Nikola and less were like JP Morgan, we'd have gone to Mars, and we'd colonized Mars, right? If we had visionaries and people who see, one of the things that makes Elon Musk so successful is I'll say he's got some vision. I'm not going to say he's a visionary, but he's definitely got some futuristic vision. Nikola Tesla was off the charts with his vision of the future. But if that guy had monetary backing back in the day, can you imagine where this world would be? It'd be incredible how advanced it would be. Good, Simon. British pound, Japanese yen, been good to you? And that's one I don't trade. I don't trade the yen cross pairs, but yeah, I can see why. I mean, you've had just a beautiful run up there in the British pound against that Japanese yen. Gorgeous run, actually. Man, that's a monster movement. Congrats. And I think as far as earnings go, it does start some pretty big stuff for tomorrow. Now, the top of the list there is Netflix, which has, I'll be honest, has really not, I guess, garnered the limelight. It used to be like such a popular, everybody was talking about Netflix. It's still moving up sharply, right? It's $637 right now. Here is your chart. It's still looking great, but it doesn't seem like it's gaining the talk track that everybody's jumping on Netflix. But that said, your chart here is still epic for Netflix. I'll go back to the weekly here so we can see the longer term picture of it. Just going through all-time highs. Unbelievable. But Netflix coming out with earnings tomorrow. That's after market close, which means it's do I get to use some graphics? Finally, I get to use my popcorn trade of the day graphic. Oh, thanks, Tim, for building these out for me. I rarely get to use that one, but the popcorn trade of the day is going to be Netflix. Why? Hey, they're going to move a lot. $630 stock in the after hours on earnings. My guess is you'll see at least a 10% move when the bell rings, at the final bell rings, and when it closes. So what does that mean? For those who know what the popcorn trade of the day is, something I've coined a while back, is you put your feet up on your desk, you grab a bowl of Orville Redenbacher popcorn, and you watch on a 1-minute time frame in the 24-hour session. Watch when Netflix comes out with earnings. It's going to be all over the place. It's always entertaining to watch. Just don't trade it. You'll get caught, and you're either going to make a lot of money or you're going to lose a lot. And the odds are you'll probably lose. So just leave it alone. Just watch it and have fun. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. I think we got enough out of the way. I have no guests the remainder of the week, and I don't have any time to even look for some guests, unfortunately. So we'll just have to keep what it is and do some solo shows for the remainder of the week, and maybe I'll get lucky and get a guest on here. But thank you guys so much for joining us. If you like to give me a little thumbs up. If you have comments, questions, feedback, things you want me to talk about. And again, those that did send in the questions today, I do appreciate that. So Lisa and Lee, thank you for your comments and questions. If you have them, send them in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com to let me know what you guys want me to talk about show-wise. And enjoy the Bitcoin futures IPO tomorrow, or Bitcoin ETF IPO tomorrow. I say IPO. It's new rollout. All right, guys, have a fantastic one. I will see you on Tuesday. Take care.